and founder of The Last Word, none other than Miss Louise Harris.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you.
Welcome. Yes, welcome, Miss Louise on Book One Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that
Yes,
I
my,
miss?
yes, I'm Louise Harris. Last Research and Editing is my company. The last word of meeting your marketing needs. I have been in the journalism, writing, editing field since 1989. I've had my business since 1992. And I just always wanted to be a writer. So I knew very young that I was going to be writing in 19 I mean when I was 12 I published my first poem, not book, and I got paid for it, so that was my first foray into being a published author. And then my career just evolved from there.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Louise. Thank you. And today let's talk about the three tips for being successful as a writer. So tell us, your first tip is often the most important. What
the,
fundamental or foundational principle do you had to
I
lead
think
with?
the most important thing that people need to be do when they're writing or editing or even starting a business is be true to yourself. Do not let the noise in the world change who you really are. Just be yourself, write what you know, and it'll all work the way it's supposed to work. The second important thing that I've always, in all of the years that I've been editing, the biggest mistake most people make is that they don't make their books flow. And it should flow like a river from the start to the end. And that's often what I am correcting on a big basis, is that it doesn't flow well. So that's the second tip. And then my third advice would be listen to the others who have gone before you. They may not have the answers that you're looking for specifically, but they will definitely give you good advice. And I listened to people's that went before me, and some I took the advice, some I didn't, but I think it's important to evaluate what other people have done. So
Interesting, Miss Louise. So let's say your second tip is about discipline. How do you refrain discipline from a chore is a chore into a sustainable practice for a writer who struggles with motivation?
well, most of the time when people say that they want to write a book, but they think it's a daunting task because they see the books on the shelves and they're 250 pages, and they think, I don't know how I can write that many pages. So to be disciplined as a writer, you want to break down the task just like you would for any kind of business, where you break it down to manageable parts. So I always tell my clients that if you want to start a book, don't write don't think of it as writing 250 pages. Think of it as writing 10 pages a day, and that the book itself is going to be half pages because it's only 5.5 by 8.5 or 6 by 9. So it's not going to be a full page. So it's less daunting when you think of it that way. And then you can break up the tasks into little chunks. And then every time you get past your milestone, you can create a new milestone, but you can also pat yourself on the back that, hey, I passed my milestone. So that's usually what I tell people. But the other important thing about it is to be when you're disciplined, you're doing something every day. You're not putting it off for 10 years and then coming back to it. That's not really being motivated. And but If you do something toward your goal every single day, and this applies to being a writer, applies to being a business owner, applies to anything, you set a goal, do something toward that goal every day, and eventually you'll make that goal and you'll get there faster. So that's how to be disciplined.
Definitely discipline. Discipline is one of the key to success. Many people start projects, few finish them. What is your specific strategy or mindset shift for pushing through the messy middle of a manuscript and actually reaching the end?
Well, as I said, break it up into smaller parts, but also it really has to be something that you want to do. You I meet a lot of people who are told by family and friends, "Oh, I think you should write a book." And I always say everyone should write a book. Everyone can write a book, not everyone should write a book. But staying motivating and finishing it, again, it has to be something that you really want. When I wrote my first novel, I had in my drawer, I knew someday I was going to finish a novel. Um, but I had in my drawer this novel that I had started, and I would write 10 chapters, and then I'd put it away, and then I wouldn't bring it out again. And so that was it. It would go that way. I would write it, and then I would put it out, put it away. Um, but when I had moved to Arizona with my husband and my three really young kids at the time, my youngest was only 3 years old, and all our family, my family was from the Philadelphia area in the United States, and my husband's family was in the Washington, D.C. area of the United States. So when we moved to Arizona, we were across the country and we were away from everybody that we knew. So I was lonely, and the kids would come home from school, and I would sit on the couch while they were watching their cartoons, and I would write my loneliness in the characters that I was creating. And I had a book in a first draft anyway in about 2 months, and then I went through the editing process, and I actually decided that I can get this published. So when I finished that one, the one that I kept putting away and bringing back out and putting away, had more motivation because I had already finished one. So so you kind of, I think that writing can be therapy, and it's not just nonfiction that you do the therapy. It can also be not a fiction, like in my case, the character was absorbing my loneliness. So I think once you accomplish something, it's easier to keep going. So once you start those 10 pages, then you're more likely to keep going because you've already started them. I think the hardest part for most people is starting it and having that motivation to actually sit at the computer and put something on paper. It doesn't matter what you put on that paper because you're going to change it anyway. Just get something in the computer, or as I like to do, I handwrite my first draft. But just do it. Just put something there and then work from that. That's the best way to get motivated.
Miss Louise, every writer battles the inner critic. What is the practical techniques for turning down its volume during the crucial first draft stage?
Well, that's exactly it. You have to keep telling yourself, this is the first draft. I'm going to be able to polish it later. I don't have to worry about flow and grammar and all that stuff right now. I just have to get the main plot down. And I like to start with the characters and their traits. I have a spreadsheet that I put all those things in. So I kind of have a plot in my head. So you have to not you have to turn it off, and then know that, okay, this is only a first draft. I'm going to be changing it and then I can polish it. So don't be too hard on yourself. Everybody has to start somewhere. And, the Olympians, they don't immediately make awards. They have to start with the first time they fall and then they get themselves up again and then they start again. And, it's the same thing. You have to let yourself fall so that you can get back up again.
Yes, give grace to yourself, people. Don't be tough to yourself. Give grace. You
Yeah.
likely, you likely suggest reading so widely, but how should a writer read as a writer?
Yes, you do want to read a lot. And I do read a lot. You can read either on the electronic version or you can read on book form. I actually I've read books both ways and I like it both ways. It just depends on whether I'm like on a plane or something, or I can't get a printed copy of a book. Or I also have read a lot of PDFs of books too because I write reviews for people. But you find what you enjoy reading and then just read it, and you'll see how other authors do their plots and how what words they use, and that's very important because otherwise your writing will be stale if you don't use other people's influence. um, and you can also learn things as far as marketing goes from other authors. I actually was at a book festival in Baltimore, and I met a best-selling author there, and in her books at the back, she had a sticker that asked people to review it. And she said that she put that in because people are more likely to review as soon as they finish reading a book. But there is, so if you put a sticker, you have a reminder there that to review the book on Amazon. Well, that resonated with me. And so now, whenever I edit a client's book, even if it's nonfiction, I will put not a sticker, but on the very last page, I will actually ask people to review the book on Amazon so that they have it right when they finish reading the book. So you can get tips from other authors. So it's good to meet them, it's good to read them, and it's good to uh, find out different ways of writing or doing a scene.
Well, thank you for that answer, Ms. Louise. How does your approach to editing a manuscript differ from the process of writing the first draft? Is it a different hat you put on, or how do you switch mindsets?
For my own or for other people's.
Both, if you can have.
Okay, so for my own, as I said, I start the very first draft in handwritten form. So then when I take that handwriting and I put it into the computer, that becomes my first edit. And then I can see different things that didn't make sense as I was writing it. And then I can change it. And it is a different mindset. I'm looking at it from not the author, but as the editor, and how a reader uh, would take it. Uh, for my clients, it depends on whether I'm ghostwriting versus just plain editing. If I am ghostwriting it, then I will write it as a writer and then I will go through it again. I will print it, read it a second time, and then that would be the editing. And it's kind of the same. I have to do this right for my client mindset, whether it's the first draft or the second draft. So, um, but if I'm just doing a straight editing, then I've never read it the first time. So then it's easy to find the mistakes and the awkward wording and things like that. And again, I print it out because you can catch more when you read something that's printed versus something on the computer.
Ms. Louise, getting feedback is essential, but it can be conflicting and paralyzing. What is your framework for sifting through critiques to find the notes that truly matter?
Well, you have to read it all, and then you take the ones that you think are valid criticisms, and then put aside the ones that you think are just blowing smoke. Or I've had a couple bad reviews, and I could tell that they didn't really read the book, that they were just reviewing it from the because they mentioned things that aren't even in the. I mean, they were in the back cover copy, but they weren't in the the plot was a lot more intense, and they didn't really get the idea of what the plot was. So I kind of do that. I judge whether the critic has actually read the whole book, or if the critic is only making their opinion based on certain things that they've read about it. But you basically look at all of the reviews that you get, and you figure out the ones that are valid, and you make those changes, and the ones that aren't valid you just put aside, because otherwise you'll go crazy because you'll be trying to please everybody and you can't please everybody. So,
True. You cannot please everybody, people. Just do your best.
and
Do you
again,
be-
it goes back to my first point that if you stay true to yourself, those criticisms won't bother you because you will know that you did it the best way that you could have done it. So
Yes, definitely. So, do you believe that constraints a daily word count, a strict deadline, or specific theme enhance creativity? Why or why not?
do I believe in a particular
Cons-
word count, or
yes. Do you
I
believe that
actually
that
I
constraint?
actually find that it's easier to know how fast something I'm going to edit if I have a page count as opposed to a word count. Because if I have a 250-page book, I know that'll probably take me about 10 hours to edit it. But when someone tells me 100,000 words, I can't really visualize in my mind how many pages that is. So I can't really give them a good estimate. Now, I don't think that really matters anymore. I think word counts. The books now are pretty much any size. You still want to have at least 25,000 words, but the word count isn't as hard and fast rule as it used to be. When I started in the industry, it was a very you had to have 80,000 words if you were writing fiction, and you had to have 50,000 if you were writing nonfiction, but that's not really the case anymore. So it really, I always tell my clients, write it so that it makes sense and it flows. So however many words that is, that's how many words it's going to be.
Interesting, Ms. Louise. So, how do you personally define success for a writer? Is it a publication, sales, reader connection, or something more intangible?
I think it's kind of a combination of all of those things. You know, when I first started, it was celebrated when someone just published a book. It was a major feat to just get a book published. But now that it's so easy to self publish with Amazon and Ingram Spark, that that celebration of, hey, I just have a published book, doesn't really happen anymore, but it really should, because it's still an accomplishment. You still wrote 250 pages, and you still had it edited, and you still talked to a graphic designer to do the cover, and you still did the research, so it's still an accomplishment. But that's only the first accomplishment. Then the second one is actually people wanting to buy it and going to events and having people ask you to sign it and purchase it and really interested in reading it. And then the next accomplishment is having readers give you reviews and tell you how much they love the book. And then the final point of success is if you're happy that you did all this and that you want to keep doing it. If you're not happy, then you shouldn't keep doing it. But I think it's a combination of celebrating your success. Success is having it published, having readers actually read it, making money on it, and then being able to be happy doing it.
Miss Louise, as a founder and CEO of Last Word, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Short-term goals, I'm working on I have two, I have a 1776 series. That's my romance series. And then I have my kids series, which is Notorious Nick series. So my short-term goal is to get Notorious Nick final, the second one. I have the first one out. I would like to get the second one finalized and out. And then and my long term, and then my medium goal, because next year's the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, I would like to have my 1776 series out in audio form, or or have the fifth book out in print form. Uh, but my long term goal is to be able to leave a legacy of my books to my three children and to um, make them, enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it, and also make my business grow more in both this one and my other one, and then just reach as many readers as possible. That would be my long-term goal.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Louise. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, I definitely think you should talk to someone before you get into it, because a lot of people, they get frustrated when it's not working the way they want it to work. So before you even get started, talk to somebody who is doing it. Love what you do. Always be happy in what you're doing. And and the basic answer is hire a professional editor and hire a professional book cover designer for the maximum sales of your books. But really, just don't worry and be happy. That's really what I tell people.
Be happy all the time. People, so before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season. Mob book 101 to be in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in third season. And mob food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101, love letters. Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and My Baby Podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its second
Well, you
season.
sure do a lot.
Yes, please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Louise, if you could only pass on one piece of wisdom from your three tips that would help a writer for their entire career, what would it be?
uh, well, um, I'm going to go with stay true to yourself. I think that's the most important.
Definitely. Miss Louise Harris, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Yes, likewise. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, my website is lastresearchandediting.com, christianmarketingexperts.com, and my Amazon website is amazon.com/author/Louise Harris.
Yes,
And I,
people. Go ahead.
oh, well, I was just going to say, and I also do editing, marketing, and writing. So,
Yes, people, let's support Miss Louise Harris because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering books, more empowering coaching, or more empowering business to come. So, Miss Louise, thank you so much for your time.
thank you. I enjoyed it. Have a great night.
More to come, people. See you soon.